Empire.
Welcome to the first off-season edition of All's Caps with former Capitals defenseman Karl Osner. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. Today we'll be talking about what we learned on Exit Day a little over a week ago about Nick Backstrom, Tom Wilson, Carl Hagelin even. Look ahead to some of the other stuff in the playoffs. But Carl, let's start with Nick and kind of where we think this is going with his hip. And clearly he wasn't the same during the season. And the biggest question moving forward, I think, for this team is what is Nick Backstrom's involvement, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you were there, so you would have kind of got a better vibe or sense.
I didn't get a good vibe.
You didn't know. Yes, it's pretty unfortunate, and Nick kind of keeps his cards pretty close to the chest too, so it's hard to tell exactly from him.
Sure.
I think listening to Mac speak maybe gives you even a little bit more indication than it does talking to Nick, but I remember just from when he was getting his first hip surgery done, and how intense that process was and how much it kind of knocked him down, and then hearing how hard he worked last summer and having to miss out on his gift from the team for his 1,000th game because he wanted to make sure he was good enough to play. And it's just like he's working so hard to get this thing back, and it's like hips and groin, these injuries, some guys will spend a year just trying to recover from it, and it's never the same. And other guys, are just like, they kind of call it quits a little bit sooner. And, I'm not saying that that's where he's at, but like, this is taxing physically and mentally to try and get through. And he's already done 2 surgeries, right? Like how many more do you do until you finally realize it's just, it's a never ending battle. So I don't know where he's at. I'm really hoping that some specialist, some doctor is going to be able to give him clarity on the situation and at least a relatively accurate timeline and expectations, because as a player, that's pretty much what you want, right? You go into the doctor's office and you say, how long am I going to be out for? And is it going to get worse if I play now? And those are the questions you want to know. So
Sure.
Hopefully for him and for fans and the team that they can get a little bit of clarity there.
Okay, so I want to actually play what Nick said, because I asked him about kind of his future at Exit Day. I want to play what he said, and then my colleague Matt Patterson, Washington Times, asked Brian McClellan, "Are you worried if this is kind of career ending?" So I want to play these back to back of Nick's answer to that and Brian McClellan's answer to that.
The best thing I want to do is play hockey, and that's my life. So obviously I want to be back. I want to be back to normal, not worrying about this. So we'll see what's going to happen, but nothing is finalized yet.
I think he's going to explore all options here. I think he wants it to be better. He wants to be more physically comfortable when he plays, so he's going to explore it.
What are your thoughts on kind of hearing that from Nick and Brian McClellan about kind of where this might be headed? Yeah,
so explore all options, right? That's it's interesting because I'm curious what other options there are. Is there another procedure that Nick's been kind of putting off?
That's the question, right?
Yeah, something that maybe is almost like a guarantee, 1 year kind of situation. Like maybe there is something that could help, and everything has just been like, I guess in a sense, a bit of a Band-Aid to try and get it to a place that's good enough. But like just listening to Nick's voice, like that's frustration to me, right?
Yeah.
That's something that we all know what he can do, and he's 100%. He's unbelievable. And to come to the rink and not be 100% and have to battle through that all the time. And then the amount of effort mentally and physically that goes into just trying to get yourself to a place where you can perform even at a decent level, knowing what you can do when you're healthy. Like that's just a crappy feeling. Right. So I don't know. I'm hoping that there's a solution to this, but it didn't seem all that positive listening to them talk.
It didn't, and the thing that Carl that first gave me the first indication was John Carlson came up and we asked him about Nick, and the first thing he said was, "Have you guys talked to Nick yet?" And to me, that was a sign to me of these guys know a little bit more than they know about kind of what might be ahead here, and I don't know if that means Nick not playing again, which I don't know if that's even an option, or missing part of next season to have that surgery. But this team needs Nick Backstrom to be Nick Backstrom to be a playoff contender.
Yeah, that's such a eerie statement. Have you talked to him or have a question? Yeah, I guess
that's the vibe I got, which was not good.
Yeah, because that's like how much can I say, right?
Right. So, well, more so to me, I don't want to deliver bad news. Yes, more so, it's like it's not my news to share, and I appreciate that from John. But also, like, it doesn't give you a good feeling of kind of what guys know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you know what? It's hard to believe that he would know already at that point, what the future holds.
But it's not good. It gave me the sense that it's not good.
It seems long-term for sure.
Yes.
So we'll see where it goes from there. But, I'm like everybody else. I want to see Nick out there. He's probably my top 3 favorite players in the league. So I want to see him play. I enjoy that. The team enjoys that. The city does too. So, for him, that's what I'd love to see. But where I'm at right now in my life, what also goes through my head is quality of life.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure that's something that he's taking into consideration too, wanting to still be able to do the things that he loves, which is playing with his kids and golfing and that kind of stuff, right? And he's only 34, so he's got quite a few years left to think about. So that's I'm hoping that gets weighed into this decision as well, which I'm sure it is.
I was gonna say, you know that really from experience that you can do those things now. You can play men's league, you can go golfing because maybe you didn't kind of push it, and maybe if you got hurt worse later, your quality of life wouldn't have been so good.
Yeah, and you know what, the thing too is like when you take a full year off and you don't train and stuff like that, things will start to get better. Like I was at the point where it was every morning after skating and training, it takes a good 30 minutes to start walking normal, right? And then you feel okay. And then I noticed after the first 3 months of not doing anything that my back was starting to get better. My groin and my ab were my kind of issues, and those started to feel better. And now I don't really have that, but I do notice when I start training consistently and skating more that my back starts to act up again, which a lot of people in this world, the back
Sure.
is an issue, right? So it's constant maintenance, but things do start to get a little bit better. But like the amount of strain that is put on players' bodies, like a skating stride is not a normal position to be in.
Yep.
And so you continue to do that over and over again, you have issues, right? And so I guess being able to cut it off before it becomes a permanent thing, then that's good. But how do you know when that time is?
Yeah, obviously we really want to see Nicklas Backstrom be healthy on the ice. He's still got, I think, 3 years left on his contract. Like we would love to see that. We don't know. We also don't know about Tom Wilson. We're going to hear from him after the break here about his knee injury, the potential kind of future, and kind of how he felt not playing in the first round against Florida.
In more ways than one, my summer sucks now. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that, you're to have the uncertainty was tough. Like I was trying to get back and trying everything I could. And I mean, every person you walk by, every fan, every person is like, when are you back? We need you back. And that was tough. Like for me, I want to be out there, Yeah. So it's you feel a little bit like you let people down, and that sucks. But I mean, I just try and play as hard as I can, and that stuff happens. So it sucks to not be able. At this time of year, you're driving in, you see all the fans. Like, that's why I play. Like that. Those are the games. You try and play for your city and take pride in that, and that sucks.
That was Tom Wilson. This is All's Caps with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzer. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. You know that feeling, Karl, of playing through it, not being able to play, and you could tell from Tom Wilson it was bothering him not being able to get out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, he knows he can make a difference in the series, right? So you're like, oh, if I was out there, I would have done this different, that different. And that's what you're always asking yourself. But the reality is that you're not out there, and there's nothing else you can do. And I think Max said it. He wasn't going to be back for the playoffs, right? Like he wasn't there. The timeline for his injury, I guess, is a lot longer than what the playoffs would have went to. Maybe final round or something like that. There could be something, but it's just hard to wrap your head around that. I was lucky that what I had, it was I could play through some of the things that I had, and so it was a bit of a different situation, or at least my last year, but it still went through my head, like, what can I do different? My job, I guess, just to explain it, like my first, in 2016, when Pittsburgh won their first cup, I had a lower body injury that I couldn't skate through anymore. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is my job. Like, my whole job is to try and shut down this top line. Me and Carly, that's what we do. Or me and Niski, I think it was that year. And then not being able to do that, I'm like, damn, like, this guy's getting away with way more than what, I feel like that he should be, because I feel like I could do something about it. And, like I said, reality is that you can't. So just, you got to, unfortunately, you just got to stop worrying about it. And then the next year, it's the same thing. Upper body injury.
That was the hand second year, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can play through it. And I don't know if anybody watched the game, the Calgary Edmonton game yesterday, but there's a play like Tanev, the defenseman in Calgary. He's a shutdown D-man. His job has been to shut down McDavid all season long, pretty much. And they end up bringing him back in. He's got a shoulder injury, and it wasn't McDavid in front of the net. I think it was Hyman, but you can clearly tell he's trying to push him. He doesn't have that other arm to clear a guy out from the front of the net. And those are the things that it's just so frustrating that there's just nothing you can do about it. So then it's, do you battle through an injury to play just to play, or do you have somebody go out there that's 100% to play, right? And that was the situation with us. Like Nate Schmidt went out and played, and he played unbelievable, right? And then I come back in whenever it was at 60%. Because I really wanted to play, and Trotty wanted me to play as well. But that's is 100% of one person better than 60% of another? And in the NHL, not usually, right? But at the same time, you want to do everything possible. And so Tom is that guy. He wants to be there for the team. He knows how much the fans like when he's in the lineup too, and he wants to be there for the fans as well. And it just wasn't possible.
I actually do think, here's the thing. He could have made it worse. I think the thing is that if he had played, he could have torn the ligaments in that knee worse, and then you're missing all of next season. So as much as I think everybody says, yes, Tom Wilson should have played, it would have been nice if Tom Wilson played in the series, there was no real possibility of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so then he's still pretty young, and got a lot of career left. That's the smart decision is to not play. It's also the most frustrating decision. So you make it, and you have to deal with it.
It's hard to play hypotheticals, but Tom Wilson might have been the difference in that series, because even though it ended in 6 games, this is a team that led in 3 of those games, all 3 games that wound up losing, and then you have a Tom Wilson in the lineup, everything makes more sense. But that's a life we're not going to know. The problem now is, if Tom Wilson's not in the lineup at the start of next season, how do you fill that void?
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound like he's going to be out.
And he said, I doubt he'll miss time. But even missing training camp, right? Even missing training camp and trying to step in the second week of October is difficult.
Yeah, I mean,
he's young,
think he can do it. He's enough of that. Yeah, he's young, and he's enough of a physical specimen that I think that his body will be able to bounce back, and he'll be in. But going back to like having him in the lineup in the playoffs, and obviously he's a bigger asset in the lineup than not being in the lineup. But these playoff series, you just never know how they're going to go, right? Like, you look at the New York Carolina series right now. You have a guy like Reeves in there who's going after a guy like Domi, who is obviously not in the same level of
your boy Domi's in the
fighting ability, but he's been in the middle of stuff, and that is right now seeming to give New York some momentum, at least in New York, right? That's the way it works. And then you look in the Calgary one, and you have Tkachuk, who's been kind of getting in the mix with McDavid and whoever else, and it seems to be going in Edmonton's favor.
Because they have Zach Kassian too.
It's just weird how that dynamic. It was Zach Kassian too, yeah. It's just weird how that dynamic works when you bring a guy in to the lineup who can agitate a little bit. it can do really good things for your team, and it can also do really good things for the other team. So it's such a weird balance. And luckily for Tom and the Caps, that he can just play hockey and doesn't have to play that agitate and physical role, although he's really good at playing the physical role. But he's got two sides to the coin. But it's just weird, like how the series can flip depending on how certain.
Okay, when we come back, we'll talk about kind of the playoffs going on right now, what Capitals fans should be watching for, and some of your favorite agitators who are still left in the playoffs. Welcome back to All's Caps, the first off-season edition with former Capitals defenseman Karl Alzer. I'm AP hockey writer Steve Wino. You mentioned it, Karl, we're talking about playoffs around the league. The Florida Panthers, who beat the Capitals out in 4 to Jeff Halpern and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Your favorite player, Patrick Hornquist, out of the playoffs with Florida. But what happened? What happened to the Florida Panthers after beating the Caps in 6?
Well, the Florida Panthers of the playoffs are different than the Florida Panthers of the regular season.
I think we found that out, right?
Yeah, clear as day. The game is just so different. You don't score as much. You have to lock things down, and they just didn't do that. They were able to get past the Caps because they were super opportunistic, and the mistakes that the Caps made, which were few, they found a way to capitalize on them. So then you go up against the absolute legendary team in the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Ridiculous.
I think for me it was at the beginning of the playoffs, and I think it's this way still for a lot of people, but it's like I don't want Tampa to win. They've won enough. Let somebody else win. But I was like that for a second, and then I thought, you know what? If a team can win 3 times in a row,
absolutely,
that is amazing. That's absolutely crazy to think, especially knowing how hard it is to even get past the second round. Like, it's to do this 10 series in a row that they've won. That is crazy. And I'm at this point, I'd say I'm probably cheering for Calgary because a little bit closer to hometown ties for me. But number 2, I think it's probably Tampa at this point. They're just so fun to watch, and they're so deep. They just keep finding ways to bring new guys in that can excel up and down the lineup. It's just wild to see. So Tampa just outclassed them. Just a different level of playoff hockey than Florida could get to.
I want to come back to Jeff Halpern in a bit, but I think there's something to me about appreciating greatness that, like, and a bunch of your former teammates and the Canadians saw that with the Lightning in the final last year. We're seeing with McDavid a little bit in that series of just, there's something to be said of, people love the underdog and all that, but to appreciate how hard it is. The Lightning are in the Eastern Conference Final for the 4th time in 5 years. That's absurd. You mentioned the 10 playoff series in a row. Vasilevsky has a shutout in, I think, 6 of the last 7 closeout games. There's just something about, I think you got to recognize, we're seeing one of the greatest teams of all time play right now with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, we are. And that's that's flipping that switch. That is knowing how to play playoff hockey. And listening to John Cooper talk after, when he says that the players know what the game plan is, and they know they're going to have to sacrifice. They know they're going to have broken bones, and they're willing to do that, right? Being able to have just about everybody on your team buy into that and get to that level is something that you just dream of, right? You want everybody to do that. And some guys, it's natural for them to do that. And other guys, it's just, right, no matter how hard they say to themselves that they're going to, when it comes down to it, they just can't do it. And these guys can. And whether that is from the coaching staff that is able to get them to that point, or they love to win that much as a group, and they just find a way to do it because, they are opportunistic the way that the Panthers are, but with having unbelievably solid defensemen and probably the best goalie in the league right now as well. It's just a perfect recipe, and I love seeing Halpy's face on the bench after they won that game, just almost giggling because it was. I mean, it's pretty hard to believe that they've done it again. Yeah,
and that 2019 series against Columbus, I think that the Lightning beat themselves. The last team to beat the Lightning in an actual long series, the Capitals in 2018.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I think that the Caps could have had a chance against them.
I think they're the kind of team that can play with the Lightning. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it would have been fun to see, but we're not going to have that. So I think it's Tampa Bay's playoffs to lose right now, in my opinion. There's just no weak spots in that team. They don't even have point.
And no Brady Point, right?
Yeah, it's just, and he's not a guy that comes in and messes anything up. This is a guy that will absolutely elevate them, right? So it's pretty it's pretty wild to see. It was a fun series to watch, but I'm sad it's over.
Yeah, I'm sure there are Capitals fans out there who don't want to watch playoff hockey right now, but it's really fun. And even I was out with some Capitals fans last weekend, and they're like, it's actually kind of cathartic to watch games without any rooting interest. The Colorado Avalanche give a little bit of that in Andre Burakovsky, who was a healthy scratch the other night, but looking for his second ring with the Avalanche. And then you got Jeff Halpern with the Lightning. I think that's in addition, I guess, rooting against the Rangers for Capitals fans, kind of where they got to go here.
Yeah, exactly. It's pick your team, pick a team and ride with them and
have some fun.
If they lose, pick another team. Like who cares at this point? That's the way I was after the Caps route. I wanted to cheer for the Leafs because I grew up a Leafs fan. I thought it would be fun for the league to see the Leafs do good. They're out, so I'm on to the next team, which is the Flames. And if the Flames don't end up doing it, which doesn't look so good right now, because that series does
not look good.
If you haven't been watching anything, like watch this Flames Oilers.
Nuts.
It's been absolutely crazy. It's like you go to bed and the score is 3-0 one team. You 100% could wake up and it could be 9-6 the other team. It doesn't.
That's happened in this series through 4 games.
Exactly, that's happened. Yeah, so it's just an amazing series to watch. McDavid is doing godlike things out there in terms of hockey. He's
absurd.
It is like watching him. He made this one play for anyone who wasn't watching, where he came into the Flames zone, cut across the middle. Everyone's thinking he's gonna get just run over. Those are the train tracks right there. And he just hits the brakes, does a little spinorama, backs out. The player that goes to hit him, I don't remember who it was, Backlund maybe, is just, the guy all of a sudden has disappeared and he still has the puck. It's like he does everything with speed burst. So you're playing video games and you're holding down speed burst and all of a sudden it stops and you're like, oh, damn, I wish I had speed burst. He just holds it down and keeps going the entire time. And there's nobody in the league that's like that. I know we're comparing, always saying who's the best player in the league. And I think you forgive him for any defensive woes that he has.
I'm not sure he has a whole lot of them anymore. He's gotten to be a solid 200-foot player.
He's definitely getting better, absolutely. But he's just so much fun to watch. It's like every time he's got the puck, I'm just like, he's going to score. He's going to create something. It is so much fun to watch. And that city is on fire. And I wish I would have won the $7.4 million 50-50 yesterday, because that would have been unbelievable. That's the way you do 50-50 right there. The way they do it in Alberta.
Oh, I love the 50-50 in Alberta, and it's tax-free.
It's tax-free. I know. When we were just there, I bought a couple tickets just in case. I think it'd be pretty sweet. But yeah, that is a hell of a series to watch, and I'm hoping that there's more than just one game left, because that's good hockey.
It's really good hockey. I do want to give Capitals fans a glimpse of the future, and this is something we've talked about among our writers, and I don't know if Jeff Halpern really is interested in this. I don't know if he ever wants to leave John Cooper's staff, because why would you leave that job? But there might be a time, I don't know if it's next year, if it's 2 years or 3 years from now, where Jeff Halpern could be the head coach of the Washington Capitals. And I wonder what you think about that possibility, just given his connection to the area. He played here. He's obviously worked under John Cooper for a while, and his name's going to get thrown out there as a head coaching candidate very soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. If I was him, I would ride this wave until it.
Oh, I would too.
Yes. Like keep stacking them until it's officially over, and then your resume will still be good enough that people are going to look at you, right? But it's a good point, and I think he would probably really like to come back here because of his ties to the area, and I think he could do it. Like, he's always been an extremely smart hockey guy. He thinks through things. He's pretty methodical. People like him too. He's learning from a great coach as well, so he's going to be picking up that much more. I think he would be pretty damn amazing as a head coach. I would love to play for a guy like Halpy. So I hope that at some point that will happen. I love seeing, like Lane the other day, just getting the head coaching job.
I was just going to bring up Lane. Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. These are good people in hockey, and it's very exciting for them. And I texted with him a little bit, and he seemed really excited about it too. So you're happy for people like that. And that's the way I would be for Halpy as well. But I just love seeing him. Like I said, you very rarely get a lot of emotion from coaches behind the bench. And when you do get some, especially the giggling Jeff Halpern is so great, because you get opposite emotions from a guy like Sutter in Calgary. And it's either way, you either get giggles that are funny, or you get straight face, no celebration like Sutter, and it's funny. So it's always fun to have a good coach like that.
And I'm also enjoying the giggling Jeff Halpern, but Lane Lambert. It does seem like Barry Trotz is gonna land on his feet maybe in Winnipeg somewhere like that. But what was Lane like as a coach? Because someone asked me about this, and it's not like Lane and I were tight when he was here because we overlap by I guess only 2.5 years or so. What was Lane like to work with as an assistant, and how do you think he's going to be as a head coach?
He was awesome. The best way that I can describe him, if people remember the way Dean Evison was in the 24/7, you saw everyone remembers his famous his speech behind closed doors, but they still had the mics going. He's fiery like that. He gets emotional, but not in like a pouty emotional way. It's like a fired up, like let's get going, rah type emotional, and that is really good. I think that helps the players out a lot. I think you see the sacrifice that he makes with his coaching and how much time and effort he puts in, and when you have somebody like that, I think you feed off of that quite a bit. But what I also really love about Lane, and I don't know if it would be different as a head coach, but as an assistant, he wasn't afraid to ask the players their opinions.
Okay.
He would run the PK and we would get in there early. Usually me and Carly, we'd always try and be in there, a couple other guys, and he'd be running through video and he'd ask us, our opinions on this. Like, what do you think? And you could tell like he actually cared. He considered what we were going to do instead of what his plan was. He would be willing to completely change his plan if the players thought that something different was going to work. And so I really love that about Lane. He also gives you a lot of like, these are like some cut and dry rules. You do not go against this. And that's great because you don't want to have, we don't go against this unless this and this and this happens. And then in that case, do what you want. You want it to be as cut and dry as possible. So Mandy's leaving right now and she's waving at me. So that's what I really like about Lane. And I think that I really, really hope he does a really good job there because I think he has the ability to.
Absolutely. One more Capitals thing before we go. Peter Laviolette, 1 year left on his contract. Brian McClellan said essentially that he's going to kind of leave it internally on a contract negotiation talks. Are you okay with Peter Laviolette going to final year of the deal with only 1 year left?
Yeah, I think so. I totally agree with Mac that he said that the game plan was good. What the coaching staff did, because it was good. It was an execution issue, it seemed like. So I think, yeah, you give them another chance and then you listen to all the exit meetings from the players, right? You see what their thoughts are because they'll give you their honest opinion on how he is in the room, if the room still listens to him, and all that kind of stuff. They'll give the GM some details there and they'll make their decision after that because that's obviously it goes to management on those decisions, but you need to know if the players are listening, because if they're not listening, then it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. Barry Trotz, great example. Then you go a different direction. So that's the way it will have to be done, and you got to give him a little bit more time, I guess.
All right, 1 more year at least of Peter Laviolette. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next week on All's Caps.